Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I'm so sorry about that.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
All right, so I'll go back to the beginning then. Thank you so much. All right, thank you. All right, thank you so much for joining me today. I am Dr. Joshua Kolawole from Valdymas Intelligence. I'm a global transformational leadership trainer, and I want to discuss with you about the concept of transforming the impossible. Because when I say transforming crisis, it's actually a game of transforming the impossible, because you're going to be faced with some impossible realities or realisms, as the case may be, and you're saddled with the opportunity of a lifetime, sometimes once in a lifetime, to turn that crisis into a maximum opportunity. A scenario of like a David conquering a Goliath is an opportunity of a lifetime that was presented to him and that turned him into a boy, a shepherd boy, into a king. Such opportunities have been given unto every one of us, because time and chance visits us all. So because of this, the capacity to transform crisis into opportunity is needed to be built in every one of us, such that at every point life presents us with that kairos moment, you're well built, well prepared to understand what to do to be able to leverage the wave of that crisis and to be able to turn it into opportunity. You hear about eagles soaring against a storm, eating a storm and leveraging the speed of the storm to soar. And you hear about other birds not being able to do it because they are not built capacity, requisite structure that is required to be able to leverage crisis and turn it into an opportunity. So we want to pick some lessons from some great leaders. And I also want you to know that you have a single life to live. Hence, it's not a life where you want to play too many trial and errors. You want to know what works. You want to know what is right, what is critically right, and you want to know what is right so that that single opportunity we all have, we'll be able to maximize it. So my goal is for you to transform systems, to transform organizations, to be able to build requisite capacity to maximize the advantages that come either as an individual, in an organization, or at national level. So I am passionate about transformation at personal, at organizational, and at national level, because at individual level, I understand the need for the maturity of the minds of the people. I understand how that can build requisite capability that drives more uniqueness in the values that is being created and the value system that you're able to build. And I also understand that with that, you'll be able to drive massive socioeconomic impact, not only for yourself, but for your organization, or for your nation, because the integral of the degree of transformation of the mind of the members of a team, members of staff of an organization, or the citizenry of a country determines the overall quality of transformation that the country is able to yield. So at individual level, if we're able to integrate well and there's maturity of the culture in an organization or in a country, then it all firmly brings a great deal of transformation for that organization or for the country at large. So let's proceed. I was talking about crisis, and I said the state of crisis. I just find this picture a bit fascinating about crisis, because in my book, Transforming the Impossible, I wrote about the fact that the world is filled with a lot of darkness, a lot of disease state, and a lot of dying face system. If you look at this image on the screen, you have a very dark place that seems isolated, deserted. If you are walking in a dark alley in the evenings, you get scared. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of brittleness that comes to your life, no matter how strong you think you are. You just think some evil could just eat you unexpectedly. That unpredictability or uncertainty is one of the critical factors that makes crisis a lot dangerous. That if it's not properly managed, then it would lead to it could lead to a disease or a dying state for individuals. But for those who are able to leverage that wave, that storm excellently well, those who are planned, prepared, or who have been building capacity ahead of time, the way of managing the storm is going to be different. If you look at the movement of this gas particle, there's some structure of the linearity of the motion, but you could also see some uncertainty in the distribution of the gases. Because I'm going to explain some concept along the line that no matter how chaotic your environment is, if you sit down and ask enough questions and learn well with great understanding, with excellent vision, you will still be able to find some degree of pattern in what you're seeing. Even though it's chaotic, even though you have some uncertainty, you will still see some pattern in what is happening. And you could leverage those opportunities to be able to transform outcomes or transform your person, as the case is. So your goal is to leverage crisis. And like I said, the world has always been thrown into several seasons. We always have the winter. I'm currently in Mansfield, Texas, and we're just undergoing a winter storm. And so this comes now yearly. So from cycles to cycle, you would have the fall, you would have the winter, you would have the spring, and then you have the summer, which comes with increased temperature. So different seasons of your life will come with different forms of crisis. Different aspects of our life may come with different seasons and cycles per time. And all this culminate ultimately into describing how we can leverage our capacity to be able to build a better system. Management thinkers, leaders, and organizational leaders and national leaders have tried to use frameworks to capture what gets to happen in crisis. I'm sure you know the world has been thrown into several crises as well of late, apart from organizations. We've come up with a VUCA. This is a popular framework that's been around for a while. You said this is it's volatile. It's so unsettling. You have the uncertainty, you have the complexity, and then you have the ambiguous nature of the whole issue. A more modern framework, the Banning, speaks to the brittleness of system. Otherwise, systems that you think are strong-looking giant, you just see how they crash down overnight. And you talk about that brittleness, and it comes with a lot of anxiety, because the anxiety comes with a system where everyone in the organization is tense. We don't even know what's going to happen. Are they going to close us down? Will all our stores be closing down? What's going to happen? We don't even know. And because of that uncertainty, that non-linearity in the process, or the incomprehensible nature of the whole scenario, brings a lot of worry that actually even disenfranchises people from innovativeness. Because when you're worried, you lack the capacity to even think well, and be able to innovate. You also have other frameworks that speaks to turbulence, or the rapid nature at which things actually rushes until, like the wave of a tsunami rushing against an obstruction or on its path. You have the uncertainty or unpredictability of the nature of the things. You have some come with some novelty. Because they are novel, they catch people a lot unprepared. And hence, people talk about the paradoxical nature of these things, where it's difficult for you to balance the innovation, the pursuit of innovation, and the balancing of risk management. Because when you pursue innovation, there are chances that you have to take a lot of risk. And by taking risk, you have a chance of being destroyed as an organization. You're probably going to invest some finances. You might have to break some rules in some cases until other organizational sectors are able to catch up with you and understand why you need to do those things. So because of all this, there's a lot of ambiguity, there's a lot of tangleness in the way systems are interrelated or interconnected. Hence, you're having to deal with complex priorities every day. So every time people run into crisis, there is complexity that has to be dealt with. I was listening to a video about the fire that just broke up in Palisade in California a couple of days ago. Very painful, very painful. And you could hear a man saying, within 2 hours, 30 minutes, I had to rescue my family and everyone out of the fire path. And my business is being razed down by fire. This is a man that many weeks ago had a profitable business. As of today, does not have a business. He's lucky to even get his family rescued. There are some that might not be that lucky. And last week, they would have had a family. And this week, there's no family. That's the reality of our time. So crisis could be personal. A disruption in an individual's life. It could be emotional. It could be financial. It could be psychological. People lose jobs. People have the death of a loved one. They hit serious health diagnosis. Crisis could also be within a team, or complete project, a critical project failure, maybe departure of a central or key member of a team, or internal disagreement from leadership to frontline, or from frontline to leadership, or from middle level management. Crisis could be at family level. Family could go bankrupt. There could be forced relocation, like the one I just gave an example. Now, if I had to raise a community, people had to be forced to relocate. So a family that's living in a beautifully crafted 5x5 building could now be needing to squat in a motel that is just a room and a convenience. There could be divorce, separation, life transitions, death, or severe injury in families. At organizational level, you could have sudden, unexpected series of events. A major data breach could bring down an organization, could bring down a bank. Lawsuits, political issues, leadership scandals could actually bring down organization and bring down their stocks and cause it to come crashing. And brought down political leaders. National crisis, you have natural disasters, you have political instability, economic recession that could either be influenced by global powers or could actually be poor decisions that are made decades before even the leader gets into power. That will throw the economy into recession, and the current leader has to deal with that reality. Many African countries are suffering from the evil that's been done years and decades before. And now the current leaders have to either swim along or swim against the tide and have to deal with the impact of such negative economic plans or economic implementations that actually devour the resources of such nations and have brought their capacity to generate great results to their news. And at global level, the world was visited by COVID-19 a couple of years ago. And we are still in the reality of the post-COVID-19 pandemic. We're still dealing with climate change. The average temperature of the world has increased. Industrialization is a key component. Of course, increased population, industrialization, and then the world is always expressed of global financial crisis from time to time. And I know that the frequency at which this financial crisis has been coming in recent time has been increased, as against many, many decades ago where they come after many decades. Now you see them almost in every decade. Winston Churchill, one of the major figures or heroes of World War II, who held on tightly, is the leader we want to learn a little from. He says, never let a good crisis go to waste. That statement is given, well, it's been acclaimed to say that statement over and over. He believed that crisis, though destructive, could also catalyze growth, innovation, and even bring teams together, unify people that otherwise will not even be together. I will draw you a sketch now, and I will still explain it. If you can see my screen, you would see that pre-crisis period, people have different opinions, diverse thinking. People are happy. They feel this is a good world. But when they start slipping into crisis, this is like a representation of the Kubler-Ross cycle of change or emotional cycle of change. But I could also use it to represent the pre-crisis, the crisis, and then the post-crisis region. Or I could simply also make you see this as someone coming from a mountain, going down a valley, and leveraging the capacity here to go down a higher mountain. Depending on how you want to see it, you could also have people who would not be able to skip up here, up the mountain, but they will fail and go this way. So that means some people will be able to make it through to become better and generate a transformational outcome times 10, times 100, times 1,000 of who they used to be. And some will become diseased or die along this process. And they will become socialized, where others like this will become transformed. And some along the line here will become evolving. But it is your choice to make the options of where you want to be. Winston, despite the deaths during the World War, he held on and kept declaring and kept getting coalition. Reached out to Franklin Delano Roosevelt and got America involved in the war, formed an alliance that helped to win the war. So you may need relationship. You will need some degree of revelation. You will need to build alliances with people who can support you, but you will need to be faithful to a vision. You will need to first define what you need to achieve out of this crisis. You will look at your environment and you quickly assess it. So for transformative minds, their goal is that once their life gets into a crisis or they spot the onset of a crisis, they start thinking about this is an opportunity. How do I innovate out of this? And how do I unite people? How do I bring about a relationship? So he was one of the leaders that has been faced with the gravest crisis in human history, and he was able to wriggle through with this. I would also like to talk about this New Zealand Prime Minister, Jacinda, still very much alive. During the COVID-19 pandemic, she demonstrated exceptional leadership, especially by ensuring continuous communication with empathy, giving accurate information per time. I have once said, leaders should not allow space or gap within the communication gap in their team. You must ensure that you prevent people to bring on rumors that will fill the space because you couldn't communicate transparently with your team. As a leader, you must speak to your team. You must avoid people gossiping behind and creating what is an unrealistic expectation or what is unreal for the scenario you're actually having to deal with. You must speak to them and provide vision. You must provide that continuous communication, continuous engagement. So she did that by ensuring compassionate communication. She comes out to the people. At a point, she was doing hourly updates, daily update after a while, until everyone is completely engaged about what is happening, what we need to do to combat this. She also ensured that there was swift and well-coordinated action. And the model from New Zealand, and I think Sweden, was made as the standard model of dealing with crisis. WHO had to celebrate this woman for the exceptional work they did in New Zealand, minimizing the death toll from the pandemic and quickly bringing back the economy. Of course, they went into some recession, but quickly working together with everyone to bring back the economy to a better place. So with lessons from these two leaders, Churchill and Aden, let's discuss a little more about how to transform crisis into opportunities. I want you to know that despite the turbulence, the chaos that comes with crisis, either at personal level, because what happens to us sometimes is that as you are dealing with your personal crisis, your organization may also be dealing with an organizational crisis at the same time, and your country and the world may also be dealing with crisis. So you can have crisis at global, national, organization, and at that same point, this person is dealing with his own personal crisis. Incidentally, at personal level, maybe this person is dealing with an health crisis. The organization where they're working is under pressure and they need this person to show up at work more, despite the fact that this person is dealing with health crisis, weakening the capacity of this person to take care of themselves and to rest more. At national level, maybe there's inflation, and then the cost of healthcare to take care of this person's health starts skyrocketing. The organization couldn't meet up with the payment, leading to further crisis at the national level because integrally, the blessings, the greatness of the citizenry of a nation determines the wealth of a nation. And then at global front, when nations don't perform well, global indices would actually crash as well. So letting you know that in all this, everything could actually impact on themselves at the same time. And when they do, as an individual, you would have to figure out how you get out of your crisis. Organization leaders have to figure out how they get out of this crisis. National leaders have to figure out, global leaders have to figure out why all this is happening. I need you to know one thing, that if you study well, you will see some hidden patterns, you will see some structures that actually exist in that disorderliness. You know, crisis could be organized and unorganized. I will talk a little more about that very soon. So even in that unpredictability, in that lack of clarity, if you actually ask enough questions, if you reach out for more understanding, if you craft out the vision of who and what you want to become, you would see a pattern that you can lean on And when you hold on to that pattern, you will be able to wriggle your way out of the crisis. When you look at the life of Churchill and Aden, they have taught us that you need to recognize and harness some underlying dynamics in your system, but you will need some visionary thinking. You will need some strength of adaptability, and you will need to focus on a long-term goal. The problem with leaders and followers in nations and even us as individuals in family is that once there is pressure, once there is tension, we want that myopic escape. We just want to get out instantly. Sometimes you actually need to stay in that crisis to build strength. The strength you build in crisis is what will change your post-crisis outcomes, will change your capacity. The reality, the pain is that you want to get out as soon as possible. Who doesn't want to get out as soon as possible out of pain? But the challenge is that some or all crises are built with inherent nature to strengthen us to become better, stronger, and wiser. They have come to increase our power base, our wisdom base, and even our capacity to build love. By power base, I mean they have come to test us, to tell us this is the limit of your strength. Hence, if you want to become more, you need to put in more character. You need to put in more discipline. You need to put in more well-structured or build better policies, better institutions that would enhance your influence and position you either as an individual, organization, or nation in a better stance. And if you look at the wisdom, you need to have better, deeper understanding of the patterns and principles that drive your system. And then with love, you need to integrate together. You need to work together. You need to build stronger relationships. When you integrate these three together, you will back some innovative ideas, some visionary thinking that would help you build some revelatory capacity to start seeing the pattern. You will not see those patterns quickly. It will take you to build better systems. It will take you to think deeper and get a deeper wisdom. It will take you to work together in love. And then when you integrate these three together, you will be able to build a vision that is clear for everyone. You will be able to know the adaptive way to achieve results. And then you will be able to focus on long-term goals. By adopting this, you would have seen leaders of great nations, organizations wriggle their way through crisis. I want you to know that we all become great by choice. It is your capacity to embrace transformative choices that will determine how well you want to get out of a crisis, or even if you will prevent yourself from slipping into a crisis in the first place. And even if you do, it will determine the quality of result you will get out of the crisis. Crisis can either turn you to a socialized dead mind, or can make you become an evolving mind, or can be that leverage you will take to become a transforming mind. It is up to you. It is up to you as an individual. It's up to you as a leader of an organization to determine what you want to and who you want to become. So we simply do not know exactly what the future holds. We cannot accurately predict the future, but we can create something big, something transformational. If I am currently a graduate of a university, I can't accurately predict where I would work, but I can position myself to say, even anywhere I find myself, with these skills I am learning, I will be able to fit into a dynamic and innovative organization. I'm learning leadership skills as you're listening to this video. I am learning skills, maybe ICT skills that would make me fit into the global technological world. I am learning other emotional intelligence skills that would enable me to fit in properly into a team. I am learning how to lead team members. So, according to Robert Noyce, right, you may not find what exactly you're looking for, but you will create something equally important and great. I'll give you an example. This was Idris Yala in his video about transformational leadership. He explained the concept that, let's say I make up my mind and in the next 4 years, I want to go for Olympics. And I want to run that long race, maybe 7,000 or 5,000 meters. And I start preparing today. And I prepared rigorously. Got a coach, ensured I dedicated time daily, placed myself on an excellent diet that fits into what I'm doing. I traveled to Bolivia or Kenya or Tanzania to train so that I can be an exception. I can adapt to even low oxygen terrain. And I try to do all those. What will happen is, let's say we get to Olympics in 4 years from now, and after the whole race, I came last in the Olympics. Someone will look at me and say, well, you set out a vision to win the Olympics in 4 years, and you did not. But what the person has failed to realize is that even though I did not win the gold, I have improved my fitness. Even though I did not win the gold, I have improved my capacity that if I can do that for another 4 years, I may actually come back and win the gold. Even though I did not win the gold, my name will be written in the history of those who had visited Olympics and had participated in a 5,000 meter race. Even though I did not win the gold, I have improved the blood flow between my lungs, within my lungs, the blood flow in my own circulatory system. I am healthier, more fit, and more energetic. And the discipline I have built in the process of going to Olympics, I can translate it into my business. I can translate it into writing books. I can become a name that will be reckoned with. So sometimes you go for gold. You don't get the gold because that's what you're looking at. But even with the silver that you got, life will present other opportunities for you that even the wealth and the positioning you would make can actually be way more than the person who got the gold. I've had years where Manchester United probably came second in the Champions League game, but made more money than the club that came first. So they set out to win the Champions League, they didn't achieve that, but you would get something also equally important. Hamilton's philosophy says, you don't wait until you're in an unexpected storm to discover that you need more strength and endurance. I want to tell you, if you're a young mind listening to this video or joining anywhere, the idea about life is that you don't wait until you get into crisis before you build preparatory strength. What we fail to do is that when we are in a comfortable zone, we get to relax. I asked someone one day, what would you have done if you were in crisis? The guy told me I would fast more, pray more, I would go to school more, I would learn more lessons, I would make sure there is rapid distance in my life. And the guy institutionalized this same concept in his life when he was in crisis and got out of crisis. Immediately he got out of crisis, I noticed that he relaxed again. And all the principles he has used in crisis, he left them. Most of us leave the principles that got us out of crisis. How did you survive when you lost a loved one? That was the time you were singing some good songs the more. Maybe even worshiping the more. Or maybe that was the time you were obedient and you listened more to instruction. But because you thought it's now a bit over, you dropped those principles that helped you in crisis. So what I am saying is that you need to build strength and endurance and capacity during when there's no crisis. That's when you should read more, learn more, attend conferences, build networks. I spoke about relationship. That's when you should build relationships. It is not when you're in trouble that you're not going to look for a relationship that will help you out of the trouble. It is when things are calm. That's when you should seek revelations. That is, you should seek discovery. You should research about things. It is when you're not in crisis that you should pursue the principles of righteousness. It is righteousness that exalts a person, a nation, an organization. That's why you should put policies in place to know what you will do right. When you're not in crisis, these are the things you should prepare and build. I wake up early, I read, I study, I develop skills, I become more, such that you prepare with intensity, that if conditions turn against you, you will draw from your deep reservoir of strength and survive. That's what happened to Hamilton. He was a Norwegian voyager who went to the South Pole, or one of the poles, either the North or the South. And it took a lot of adaptation to survive that trip. But they prepared adequately for it. So what I want you to note is that, and if on the other side, conditions turn in your favor, just like a plane flying with a tailwind, if condition turns in your favor, you will strike so hard and then you will transform yourself and your surrounding. So ultimately, life is about that critical hard choices that you truly don't want to make. It's about that disciplined battle reading, that choice to be productive and creative always. That choice not to just sleep continuously. That choice to make sure you're making something happen. As a living mind, your goal is to create, is to collaborate, is to cast vision, create systems, and collaborate. You build product, you build platform, and you have a message for the world. You build product, you build platform, and you have a message for the world. If you want to become great, you will build product, you will build platform that will help people become better, you will build product that will solve people's problems, and you have a message for the world that will encourage the world and bring the world to become a better place. If you do those three, you will transform crisis into opportunities and you will become great. Jacinda Ardern had a message of hope in global crisis. They created products that help people got out of the hope issue, and they created a platform for engagement of the whole country, communicating part-time with accuracy. So there's always a pre-crisis where you're supposed to build on rocks and plan for crisis and even plan for post-crisis scenario. One reality I want you to know is that you will never come out of crisis the same way you went into it. Please go and write that down. You will never come out of crisis the same way you got into crisis. If you have gone through anything in life, I can promise you 100% that you have come out a different person. Either you come out socialized, evolving, or transforming. You will come out a different person. So it is not the same you that is going into 2025 that is going to come out of 2025. Either at personal, at social level, or at structural level, things would change around you. So either in the acute phase of a crisis, the subacute or the chronic for an elongated form of crisis, it is the quality of your plans for all these that will determine how well you survive and what becomes of you at the end. Either you would burn out to be socialized, evolving, or transformative. So it is your choice to prepare for war in times of peace. You don't wait until the day you get into financial crisis before you build the systems of sowing, giving, so that you would have built a lot of seeds in the ground that would have been growing. That perhaps the day you will enter into financial crisis, you will just get some reward. I want to give you an example. A couple of months ago, I just logged on into my account. I needed some funds transferred, and I just saw some credit alerts enter, like 3 of them. And these were just stocks I bought many years ago. That, of course, annually I know they pay dividend, but I didn't expect the dividends to come at that time. And the fund was just exactly enough for the thing I wanted to do at that point. You need to prepare a lot, and that's why your life must be built on value systems, must be built on principles, must be built on faith, must be built on a structured, sustainable system. That's how you build on empowering others and positioning yourself for empowerment. You build adaptively, you build with resilience. You ensure that the choices you make every time are choices that are in alignment with a long-term thinking, while you're still supporting yourself on the short term. There is what we call accommodation for the high. Accommodative power of the high is the ability of the high to see far point. Far point for a normal high is infinity, where you will not see anything again. Near point for a normal high is 25 cm. So which is pretty close to your person, right? The ability of your eye to see that short sight and also be able to see long sight and make choices that will keep this long sight a reality, but still make you survive in the short time is what we call accommodative power. So when you see a leader doing things that make them to survive now, but still reading books. When they ask you to read books, you think it's not solving my immediate problem. The challenge you have is that you want to solve immediate problem, but you have forgotten that you will live through today. And there's a bigger problem tomorrow if you fail to gather this knowledge. When they tell you listen to leadership trainings like this, you think I don't need it now. It can't translate into money for me now. But what you don't know is that when you listen now, it will influence the quality of choices you make at this point and increase your outcomes here. You run away from the lecture now, but you don't know that you're trading off something bigger here. When you have to attend a conference, go for that training, go for that PhD, develop your core capacity, ensure that you position yourself for interviews, make sure you advance yourself, make sure you don't settle for less, make sure you don't do this thing. What you are doing is, I don't have money now. What you don't know is that the little you have now, you must trade it off so that in time it will become something transformative. When those you make the choices of school, some of you self-sabotage. If you self-sabotage now, because what you're seeing now, so what happens to most people is that they focus too much on now, forgetting that what you should be able to balance is the relationship between now and this point. As much as you embezzle or steal that money now, you have destroyed this future here. So that's why you need principles of integrity here. If you have integrity here, it will build a strong brand for you along the line. This strong brand, even if you don't have 1 million naira, with a strong brand, people will believe in you, invest that 1 million in you, and then you become transformed to this point. But the same person you should have lived with integrity with, you have self-sabotaged by stealing that person's money, or you kept the money you're supposed to return to him, you kept it thinking he won't know. And he later gets to find out that you have been sabotaging his system and he would not stand up for you at this point because you have destroyed your brand. Because you have destroyed your brand, you will not be able to scale to this point. When we ask you put intentionality of energy, let people know that you want to do something. Intentionality of energy, that energy you're putting here, people will see you. I used to say it jokingly, if you scream loud enough that I need to be in Lagos by tomorrow, and you don't have transport fare, and you keep screaming, people will get transport fare for you and say, please give us peace. Take money and go to Lagos. But when you don't show energy, nobody will believe in you that you need to go somewhere. So for every one of you that removes energy from things, what you're doing is you're removing life from your future. And if you plunge into crisis, you will never be able to come out well. It will be coming out as a socialized person. And a socialized man would always say life is hard. It's unforgiving. But an evolving and a transformative person will say, I have leveraged that hardness to become better, to become stronger, to become wiser, which is ultimately the things of life. You want to become better, better position, better power, better wisdom, better love, better life. You want to become wiser and you want to become stronger. So for our time, I want you to know that the popular VUCA has also a VUCA prime framework, where vision is what counters volatility. If you can set a principle-based vision on what you need to achieve, no matter how volatile, unpredictable, turbulent that time becomes, no matter what the rapid nature happens, this is what would happen. With a clear vision, you will build what we call a solid value system that will be able to protect that vision. When you build a solid value system, no matter how unpredictable this is, how volatile this is, you will keep yourself strong here. This is where I tell people that you will be able to manage your priorities right. You cannot do so many things in life. So then you need to prioritize. You need to align your priorities clearly. Who do I want to be known as? Do I want to be known as someone with sound integrity and strong intelligence? Then that means I need to align myself with intelligence and in people with integrity. Then you need to prioritize where you should go, the type of conferences you go. You can't attend all the conferences in your field. So you will choose one or at most two based on your capacity. And that one, you would hold it dearly. When you align your priorities, then you now deal with your desires. The problem with desires is that a lot of things will flood your desires, but you will now force them down the path of patience. When you force those desires down the path of patience, this is what will happen. Over time, you will discover that some desires needed not to even be gotten. Some of you will say, until I get a certain type of MacBook before I can start reading properly. No, I need an iPad. That's what they help me. No, you don't need. Someone is in China, someone is in the rural area of Venezuela who will never have access to iPad, but will be reading the same thing you're reading. Some will even read with lantern when you would have access to electrical power supply. So I want you to know that if you reorient yourself properly, you will redefine your priorities clearly. Because when there is a clear vision of what you need to achieve before 2025 is over, or before 2028 is over, then it will determine the kind of value system you will build. That value system will decide your priority. Your priority will regulate your desires. Your desires will help you kill all those anxiety. Because once you force those desires down the path of patience, the anxious nature drops down. Because you now know clearly what you want and what you don't want. So there are some places you would invite me to and I will not show up. I know I will not show up. Because it does not align with my priorities, it does not align with my current desires, it's not within the framework of my value system, and it's not in alignment with the vision I've set for myself. The second thing is understanding. And I love this word understanding very well. Because with understanding, you will reduce the degree of uncertainty in your environment. Understanding would also help your vision. But I want to tell you something about a model we call DIKW in management world. But I've extended DIKW to be DIKWIT. When I say DIKWIT, I mean data, information, knowledge, wisdom, innovation, and then transformation. At the interface of transition from data to information, what gets to simply happen is that you are understanding patterns. When you understand the patterns in data, you will move from data to information. When you sit down and look at information very well, and you see the coherence in the information, understanding coherence, then you will see what we call knowledge. Knowledge on its own can puff up, can destroy, as well as it can help. You need to subject knowledge, understanding application. When you understand application of knowledge, then you move to wisdom. You move to wisdom. When you have enough applicatory strength and you understand the unknowns, you understand how to jump on the next curve. So that means you now have to understand how something is revealed, how you break an insight, how you get an insight into a new realm. When you understand the insight in this wisdom, then you will be able to innovate. There are 3 levels of innovation. You can either innovate disruptively, and that's Clay Christensen now. You can innovate disruptively, you can innovate in a sustainable fashion, or you can innovate in an efficiency-based fashion. But you can't innovate when you think enough and you birth revelation. When you consistently innovate and you do it rapidly, understanding the dynamics of time, you will transform yourself as a person, you transform your team, you transform your organization, you transform your nation. So there's a sequence from understanding of data to the point where you transform your life. But every of this is understanding. So understanding helps deal with the uncertainty in the reality of your environment. That means you must be someone who pays attention to data. You must be gathering data continuously in your system, in your environment. That is what will help you to reduce the uncertainty. Clarity. I've spoke about priorities because priorities is linked with clarity. For you to be able to force your desires down the path of patience and define clear priorities that reduces your anxiety, fears, worries, then you will need to be someone with a lot of clarity. Clarity counters complexity. You will continuously deal with a complex world. But what you need to do is, how do I simplify to improve? That's the rule. How do I simplify this complex concept to improve? And in the process of simplification, you will think about the following things. What's the timeline like? Who are the stakeholders involved? What's the causal factor? What are the associated factors? You would need to analyze based on timeline, the people involved, the causal factor, and you need to analyze based on the environment you're working in. When you're able to do this, you'll be able to simplify, find the interrelation between the complex ecosystem, and then choose a path that you would take. Every time you choose a path, I can promise you, you would have to sacrifice many paths, but you must be ready to live with trade-offs. And then you need to be agile. Being agile means you're adaptive and you're resilient. You must define what your core competencies and core concepts, core principles that are driving you are, and you must define how you want to bounce back when you fall. How do you bounce back? What are the principles? What are the policies that will help you bounce back? You know the integrity, you know the intelligence, you know the intentionality, you know the integration. I've just mentioned 4 I's now. You know the intelligence. Intelligence will always take you out of crisis. You know that integrity will always take you out of crisis. Let your word be your bond. You know that intentionality, when you put in that energy, get to that place early, put in that energy, walk, do the work. And you know that integration of effort. You know that you can't do it alone, so you need to build relationship and integrate efforts together. Intentionality, you put in that energy. Integrity, you do it in a righteous way. Intelligence, you seek wisdom. When you do those 4 together, you will be agile, you will come out of crisis. As we wrap up, I would just say the framework for transformation is, number 1, assess the situation. Understand the scope and the impact in your environment. Build a vision. Focus on the opportunities hidden in the challenges. Learn to communicate effectively, especially with transparency and clarity on the plan. I believe as you have started 2025, assess everything in your environment: academics, career, business, your social life. Assess everything. Which one is in crisis? Understand the scope and the impact of the crisis to your life. Focus on the opportunities that are hidden in the challenges. Communicate effectively to yourself. Be transparent. Come up with a clear plan. And follow suit with discipline. Engage and empower people that are working with you. Delegate where necessary. Get that shared ownership. Then execute and adapt. Stay agile and resilient. And this is the one I love the most, step 6. Ensure you put in evaluation frameworks. Every week, every month, ask yourself, where are we going? Where have we reached? Where are we going? Have we reached? Okay, this thing that I said I'm going to get to 20, can I scale it up to 200? If I scale it up to 200, what are the things I'm trading off now? How do I build a sustainability plan, a maintenance plan into this concept, such that even after 2025, I keep doing this? And I promise you, if you plunge into any form of crisis, or you are in crisis, if you can embrace this 6th step and you can continuously engage, you would have found your way out of crisis. If you have not read this book, Transforming the Impossible, I would implore you to read it and also read the workbook. Use the workbook efficiently. I want you to know that in times of chaos and unpredictability, there are underlying patterns and structures that are not immediately visible in your life. Patterns like, if you go and study your life, you would have seen that you have gone into some crisis before. And that's why they say, learn from history, evaluate your experience. And you would have seen what you did then that brought you out of the crisis. I studied more. There was a time I entered into some financial crisis and I went to school more, and I got out of school, got a better positioning. So when you have understood those patterns that has helped you in the past, it would help you to know what to do again when you get into another crisis. There were some crises I got into, I prayed more. Those are the realities. So position yourself to be praying such that it's not only when you're in crisis that you pray more. I ran to so place. I did this. What are those things you need to do more? By embracing transformational leadership capacity for both short and long-term thinking, you can better understand and appreciate these transformative patterns over time. I want to thank you so much for listening. And I know that you will transform the impossible. And I know that when you hit the moment where it's critical for you to transform, you will become better. You will become better at transforming. And you will not be trapped to be a socialized mind. I wish you many great transformations in your lifetime and many more in the next generation of people you would mentor. I want to know if you have a question at this point. You can always listen and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more executive and professional development learning session. And you can reach out to me with the emails and phone numbers and check our website. I want to thank you for listening, but I'll leave this on the screen. So do we have anyone with a question, please? Anyone has a question? You know, the way we say it, going. If we don't have any question in the chat in the next few seconds, I want to thank everyone who has made time to listen and as many that would listen on the YouTube. I am sure on other platforms where this video will be shared. I'm sure you've picked one or two things that would help reshape the way you approach 2025. And perhaps if you ever find yourself in any crisis moment, things that would help you to redefine your life, ensure that you build that relationship. Of course, not when you're in crisis. You have to start building the relationship from now, ensuring that you do things by the principles of righteousness, do things right, the way it's supposed to be done, according to standards. If there's a newer standard, then pursue the higher standard. And ensure that you're always seeking revelation. What's the deeper knowledge here? Better understanding, better knowledge. And that's why reading, learning, studying, thinking, analyzing, reasoning, discussing with people, visiting mentors, getting a transformational leadership coach to analyze things with you, coming up with frameworks, with models, with concepts would help you. And when you do that, ensure that you evaluate your culture, your environment, and make sure you build yourself to be someone of sound character and discipline. And you would be able to go through any crisis you find yourself, either as a person, in a family, in an organization, and ultimately as a citizen of a great nation. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.